Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are moving away from our usual topics from boardrooms and battlefields.
A bit of a change of pace.
A big change of pace. We're diving deep into a text that, it underpins the belief system of billions.
Absolutely.
A foundational text. And we're going to focus on the claims and the personal conduct required to really understand it.
And we're focusing on one specific, very powerful verse. Ayat al-Kursi.
The throne verse.
The throne verse. And what's really remarkable about the material you, the listener, sent us is just how rigorous it is.
It's not just devotional.
No, not at all. These aren't just collections of, feel-good statements. They present a highly structured, almost an architectural framework.
A framework for what? Exactly.
They analyze the specific conditions, you have ritual, psychological, and moral conditions, that the sources say must be met to actually activate the huge promises tied to this verse.
With a roadmap.
It's a roadmap, exactly, not just a picture of the destination.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is pretty clear then. We need to analyze these claims about the verse's status, really understand the two different paths to its benefits that the sources lay out.
One path through ritual, the other through sincerity.
Right. And most importantly, we have to dissect these deep psychological and moral prerequisites. Things like sincerity, will, good character, all the things that have to go along with just saying the words.
And to set the scale, we have to start where the sources do, with the verse's official designation.
Which rank?
Its rank, yes. The sources are unequivocal. Citing the prophet, they state that Ayat al-Kursi is the greatest verse in the Holy Quran. The phrase they use is Ufawziyajala Shania.
Adam ayah.
The ayah. And that's not just a great verse. The word Adam means the greatest, the most supreme.
So it's not comparative, it's definitive.
It immediately establishes its monumental importance. This is the most authoritative, the most comprehensive, and the most powerful statement of God's sovereignty and majesty in the entire text.
That sets the stage beautifully. It's the cornerstone. So let's jump right in section 1 and look at the most, straightforward promise. The one tied to a very specific, consistent action. So the sources, right away, they connect the simple act of reciting this one verse to the ultimate reward.
The ultimate non-negotiable reward.
Guaranteed entry into paradise.
Yeah.
Jannah al-Khara. But, and this is key, it's not some vague promise. It's tied to a very, very specific ritual requirement.
That's the crucial caveat. The guarantee is conditional. It's all about repetition and consistency.
Okay, so what is a requirement?
The promise is specifically tied to reciting it after each of the 5 prescribed daily prayers, after every salat.
Every single one.
Every single one. The individual is meant to recite Ayat al-Kursi, and this ritual frequency, 5 times a day, day in and day out. The sources frame it as the dedicated spiritual plumbing for this monumental promise.
I have to stop you there because this is where the claim gets just breathtakingly concrete.
It does.
The source material presents this statement with such clarity. It says, whoever performs this recitation consistently is only prevented from entering paradise by death.
Lam yamna dukhulahu jannat al-akhira illa al-maut.
So that's not just hope. It's not a possibility. It's a theological guarantee.
It is a profound declaration, and it fundamentally alters the dynamic of spiritual practice. For you, the listener, what the source is doing here is establishing a direct, almost mathematically guaranteed pathway.
Based on this one repeated act.
Yes. It implies that the divine accounting for that person is basically settled in their favor.
Contingent only on finishing their life.
Exactly. Death is framed not as an obstacle or a final scary judgment, but just as the final door you have to walk through.
Okay, so we need to talk about that frequency. Why 5 times a day? Why not just once?
The consistency is the core of what the sources are emphasizing here. It's about continuous dedication.
It's about embedding it in your life.
Right. Reciting it after every prayer, 5 times a day, it embeds the verse's core meaning, which is the absolute sovereignty of God, into the very rhythm of your waking life. It forces a cognitive reset throughout the entire day.
So deduction 1 of the sources confirms this structure.
Yeah.
You obtain paradise, Jannah al-Khara, by reading it after every prayer.
Every prayer. It demands that continuity. And arguably, if you miss one, that certainty is compromised, at least until you reestablish the consistency.
I see the structure now. It's about perseverance, discipline, constant mindfulness. And that phrase, death being the only barrier, it speaks volumes about the power of the verse itself.
Well, what does it imply to you?
To me, it implies that the verse is so comprehensive in its description of divine unity and power that reciting it consistently functions as a constant renewal of faith. It's like it erases minor shortcomings through the sheer force of remembrance.
That's a perfect way to put it. In a lot of theological frameworks, certainty about your ultimate reward it's complex calculation, right? It involves every good deed, every bad deed.
It's a running tally.
A running tally. Here, the source provides a singular, repeated, consistent action that acts as a spiritual anchor. It's strong enough to withstand all the temporal fluctuations of daily life.
It's the ultimate insurance policy.
Built on the scaffolding of daily discipline, this practice makes the concept of God's majesty, which is what the verse is all about, the daily operative reality for the believer.
So the path to the ultimate eternal reward is forged through this consistent, dedicated ritual practice. But this is where the source material does something really interesting. It immediately bridges the gap between the eternal and the here and now, which takes us to section 2. Okay, so you've secured the ultimate reward through this ritual path, but then the source introduces I'd say an unexpected and very practical consequence. It's the second deduction.
The idea of two types of paradise.
Exactly. Two paradises.
And this is a really profound piece of structural analysis that they derive from that first promise. The logic is all about spiritual priority.
What do you mean by that?
The source argues that by obtaining the most expensive paradise, the Jannah al-Akhirah al-Kala, through this consistent lifelong dedication,
Big prize.
the big prize, by securing that, you also automatically obtain the cheaper paradise of this world, the Jannah al-Dunya al-Arkas.
I keep getting stuck on those words. Cheaper and more expensive. It sounds like we're talking about, I don't know, commodities in a market. It feels a bit strange for spiritual rewards.
I understand that, but we have to analyze them through the lens of, let's call it spiritual economics and permanence.
Okay.
The eternal paradise is most expensive because its reward is infinite. It's the ultimate non-decaying destination, and it literally costs you your entire life's dedication, your struggle, your discipline.
So the expense is measured in permanence and the sheer scale of the commitment required.
Precisely. On the other hand, the worldly paradise is Arcas cheaper, not because it's worthless, but because it's temporal, it's fleeting, it's finite. It will end when you die.
Its value is lower only in comparison to the infinite.
Exactly. It's a secondary, almost guaranteed dividend that you get from aiming for the primary prize.
Ah, okay, I see that hierarchy of value now. It's suggesting that when your entire spiritual engine is aligned for the highest possible goal, for heaven, it just naturally produces positive functional results right here on Earth.
That's it.
So how does this cheaper paradise, how does it actually manifest? What does it look like in someone's life, according to the sources?
The sources imply that this Jannah al-Dunya, this paradise of the world, is the natural consequence of the moral alignment that's required to get the Agal paradise in the first place.
Yeah.
Meaning, if you are consistently dedicated, disciplined, patient, and focused, which we'll get into later, your life just works better.
That's practical.
It's very practical. This paradise of the world shows up as a profound psychological stability, protection from unnecessary harm or confusion, a kind of prosperity that comes from good character, and a deep spiritual peace, a state of sakina.
This is the real aha moment for me, that the source material connects the ultimate spiritual goal directly to immediate, tangible benefits in this life.
It's a comprehensive system of reward.
Yeah, it's not saying you have to sacrifice your earthly experience for the afterlife. It's saying that your dedication to the afterlife actually improves your earthly experience.
It's a systemic view. The pursuit of the highest spiritual priority forces you to adopt virtues and behaviors that are just inherently good for a successful and content life here.
So you dedicate yourself to the expensive item and you get the cheaper one as a sort of integrated bonus.
A necessary bonus, even. It tells us that consistent spiritual practice is the highest form of self-optimization, designed to bring both ultimate and immediate peace.
That's a powerful idea. But now the sources take a really sharp turn.
They do.
They suggest that quantity, that 5 times a day discipline, isn't the only way. They pivot dramatically to the power of pure, sincere intention, a spiritual shortcut almost. Right, so this is deduction 3, and it really demands that we reconcile it with everything we just said. If you commit to the ritual consistently, you're guaranteed heaven. But now, the source material introduces an alternative.
A very different path.
Through sincere certainty in God al-Yaqeen Villa, reading the verse just once in your entire lifetime.
Fi al-murmura wahida, just one time.
With a sincere intention, Anaya Siddiqa is enough to register you for the paradise of this world and the hereafter.
And this is, I think, the most intellectually challenging point in the entire source material.
Because it forces you to ask, if a single act of perfect quality is enough, why bother with the daily ritual at all?
Exactly. Why the daily grind? Doesn't this completely undermine the importance of Section 1?
It feels like it could.
But it doesn't. The sources present it as a spiritual hierarchy. The constant ritual we talked about, that's the reliable, widely accessible road. It requires discipline over emotion. It accounts for human weakness, for our fluctuating faith.
It's the sturdy, well-trod path.
It is. But this one-time act of certainty, of yaqeen and sincerity, niya sadika, that's the direct, instantaneous route. But it requires perfect spiritual quality in that exact moment.
A state of internal focus and purity that must be incredibly difficult to achieve.
And even harder to sustain, which is why the other path exists.
Okay, so the consistency of action validates the first path. What validates this single profound act? Where does this immense spiritual weight come from?
It comes directly from the authoritative source that's cited in your material, the sacred hadith, or al-hadith al-Qudsi.
And this is a crucial context.
It's absolutely crucial. A standard hadith is a saying or an action of the prophet. A hadith Qudsi is different. It's a saying where the prophet is relaying words directly from God, but they're distinct from the text of the Quran itself.
It's a higher category of revelation.
Yes, which lends immense spiritual weight to whatever concept it's conveying.
So that makes this claim far more substantial. What does this Hadith Qudsi actually say?
The source material quotes the key phrase that explains this mechanism of immediate granting. It says God is near what the person desires from God. The Arabic is indama yuriduhu al-insanu min Allah.
Near what the person desires. That word, inda, near. It feels like the hinge upon which this whole idea swings.
It is. The source interprets near, not just as proximity, but as fulfillment. It means that God grants the person what they desire from him. Yarzuku ma yuriduhu min Allah.
So that transforms Ayat al-Kursi, when it's recited in this perfect state, into a direct conduit for your desires to be fulfilled.
Bypassing the need for decades of consistent practice. The verse acts as a catalyst for divine granting, but only, and this is the absolute key constraint, only when the underlying intention and certainty are completely pure.
This defines the core mechanism then. The verse must be read with a strong, sincere will, by irada koya sadika.
It's not just saying the words once. It's about channeling a focused, powerful spiritual intent backed by absolute certainty through those words.
And how is that state even achieved?
It requires what some scholars might call existential focus. Imagine concentrating your entire being, your past, your present, your future hopes, into one single utterance.
And coupling that with this unshakable certainty, this yaqeen, that God not only hears you, but will grant the request.
That intense internal state is why the single act can equal a lifetime of ritual. The ritual path ensures commitment through habit. The sincerity path requires total, immediate spiritual surrender.
So the insight here is that the verse's power is harnessed by the quality of the human will. It suggests that while the daily path is achievable for everyone, this instantaneous path is reserved for these rare moments of profound spiritual alignment. And that alignment, that brings us directly to the most stringent requirements of the whole framework. Defining that sincere will and the moral foundations it absolutely must rest upon. So we've established the mechanism hinges on a strong, sincere will, this al-irada. But the source material, again, doesn't leave that as an abstract idea. It provides a foundational definition.
A very precise one.
Will, al-irada, is defined as love combined with request. Al-hub ma al-talab.
And this definition is foundational. It's so important because it refines the nature of a sincere spiritual petition. It clarifies that this powerful will isn't just a mental wish, like wishing for a sunny day.
Or a greedy demand.
Or a greedy demand, exactly. It is an earnest, active petition al-talab, but it's rooted in genuine, profound spiritual affection and reverence al-hub.
This fusion of love and request is fascinating. It suggests the precondition for even making the request is an existing relationship of, well, profound positive emotion.
That's a great way to put it.
If I don't truly love the source of the granting, then my request is just selfish and therefore it's impure.
Precisely. If the request, the talab, is detached from the hub, the love, it just becomes transactional. It's self-serving. By fusing them, the source guarantees that whatever you ask for, you're seeking it from a position of reverence, of submission, of recognizing the divine's ultimate wisdom.
It ensures the request is morally grounded from the start.
Yes.
And this potent formula, the verse, plus this strong will of love and request, is explicitly conditional on strict moral adherence.
It is. You can't successfully channel this immense power if your internal life and your external actions are, chaotic or corrupt.
The sources lay out some non-negotiable moral commitments. They're prerequisites.
Absolutely. The source makes it crystal clear that the spiritual mechanism is inert without the moral engine running.
So what's the first prerequisite?
A firm commitment to the will of good. Al-iltizam by iradat al-khair.
And that's an active choice.
An active and consistent choice to orient your intentions, your thoughts, your deeds toward beneficial outcomes. And not just for yourself, but for your community. It's an orientation toward contribution and justice.
And the flip side of that, the second prerequisite, is the committed removal and elimination of evil. Ibad wa izalat al-shar.
And this is just as demanding, because it implies active internal purification.
It requires continuous self-reckoning.
It does. This isn't just passively avoiding sin. It demands an active struggle to identify and purge negative influences, destructive habits, and morally questionable actions from your own life. It's the necessary purification you need to create a spiritual vessel pure enough to even hold a sincere will.
You can't be sincerely focused on the highest good while you're consciously engaging in wrongdoing.
It's a contradiction in terms.
Okay, and finally, the third major commitment, the one that sort of encompasses everything, is maintaining good character. Husn al-Khuluq.
And this has to be across three distinct critical dimensions. The framework demands moral excellence that covers the entire spectrum of human existence.
Let's break those down.
We have to spend time on these because together they form the full definition of moral success. First, good character with oneself. Ma nafsi.
What does that mean?
This is about self-discipline, integrity, accountability. It means being honest about your own faults, managing your desires, the nafs, and treating your physical and mental health with respect. Recognizing your body and mind as a trust from the divine.
Okay, so that's the internal dimension. What's the second?
Good character with their Lord. Warabaha. This involves gratitude, shukr, obedience, reverence. It means fulfilling your duties, like the daily prayers we already talked about, not just out of habit, but out of genuine devotion.
And the third?
Good character with other people, walnas. This is the social manifestation of your internal purity. It's fairness, empathy, justice, kindness. You simply cannot claim to have sincerity toward the divine if you're unjust or cruel to your fellow human beings.
The complexity here is that you have to maintain all three of these simultaneously.
That's the challenge.
It's easy to be good to others while you neglect yourself, or to be pious in isolation, but then fail the test of human interaction. The source demands balance.
It's a fully integrated system. If you fail in one dimension, the sincerity of your will is compromised because husn al-khuluq, good character, is a whole.
Now, to make this incredibly deep requirement actionable, for you, the listener, the source gives 4 explicit examples of essential character traits. These are the building blocks you need.
The spiritual toolkit for success.
The first is patience, al-sab.
The second, contentment or satisfaction, al-rida.
Third, conviction, al-qana.
And fourth, humility, al-tawadu.
We have to analyze these 4 because they show the practical effort required to achieve that state of sincere will.
Let's start with contentment and conviction, rida and kana, because they often work together.
Okay, contentment, al-rida. This is acceptance of your state, your destiny. How does that protect the sincerity of a request?
Well, think about it. If a person lacks rida, what are they characterized by? Bitterness, resentment, constant dissatisfaction with their life, whether it's their job, their finances, their social status.
That underlying emotional turbulence poisons the well.
It absolutely poisons the well of sincerity. How can you genuinely profess love, hub, and certainty, Yakin, when you're constantly railing against how the divine has distributed things in your life?
So rida is the foundational piece that says, I accept my current lot, and from this place of peace, I make my earnest request.
Exactly. It ensures the petition is born of hope and trust, not desperation or anger.
That makes perfect sense. It brings internal calm. So what about conviction, al-qana?
Kana is often translated as satisfaction, but it's deeper. It's a conviction in the sufficiency of what you already have.
It prevents restlessness.
Spiritual and material restlessness. If you're constantly coveting what other people have, your focus is externally driven. You're viewing success through a comparative, earthly lens. Kana ensures you're satisfied with your needs being met.
And that allows your focus to remain purely on the ultimate spiritual promise, the Agla paradise, and your own moral striving, rather than on earthly distractions and envy.
You've got it. Rita stabilizes your emotion, and Kana stabilizes your desire. They remove the internal chaos that would prevent a sincere, focused will from ever forming.
They create the fertile, quiet ground.
Yes, for the seeds of sincerity to grow. Now, let's look at humility, Altawadu. This one is essential, especially when we're talking about making a profound request, a talab, through such a powerful verse.
Because if the verse is so potent, wouldn't there be a temptation toward spiritual arrogance?
Absolutely. Tawadu humility is the antidote. True humility ensures that your request is framed as a desperate need, as a recognition of your utter dependency on the divine.
It's not a demand.
It's not a demand or a sense of entitlement because you performed the ritual or have this knowledge. If you approach the divine, even with the greatest verse, with an attitude of, I recited it 5 times, where's my reward?
Sincerity is immediately gone.
Immediately. Humility maintains the correct power differential. It keeps the human being in the proper posture of servitude.
So these 3 traits, contentment, conviction, and humility, they all work together to create the stable, pure internal environment you need for a sincere will to flourish.
And without this foundation of husnul khuluq, good character, the recitation itself, whether it's daily or a single sincere act, it just loses its intended spiritual power.
The moral framework is the engine.
And the recitation is the spiritual fuel. And out of these 4, the source reserves the highest praise for one in particular, highlighting it as the master key.
Which brings us to our final analytical section. The source material is very clear in its hierarchy of virtues. While all 4 of these character traits are necessary, the source states unambiguously,
It leaves no room for doubt.
the most important trait is patience. The source says, Ahamusifahia al-sabr.
And this emphasis tells us everything. It tells us that patience, sabra, is the operative virtue that enables all the others. And the source gives the ultimate justification for why it's elevated. Because God promised those who embody this trait all good al-karkula in the Quran.
All good. That's an incredibly comprehensive, non-specific reward. It seems to encompass everything we've talked about.
It does. The eternal paradise, the worldly paradise, the fulfillment of all your righteous desires, it is the universal gateway.
So if the ultimate reward is all good, and patience is the trait that's been promised that reward, then cultivating sabr becomes the master key.
It functions on multiple levels. Think about it. First, it enables the ritual path we discussed in Section 1.
Of course.
Consistent, 5 times daily recitation over an entire lifetime. That demands immense patience. Perseverance in the face of monotony, distraction, life changes.
And second, it enables the sincere path from Section 3.
How so?
Well, after you make that one profound request with a sincere will, you need sabr to wait for the divine response.
Which may not be immediate.
And it might not come in the form you expected. Patience prevents that sincere will from devolving into anxious doubt or even disbelief.
That's a critical point. And patience is also the prerequisite for the other 3 character traits.
You can't maintain contentment, Rita, without patience, especially when you're facing hardship.
Right.
You can't maintain conviction, Kana, without the patience to resist the urge to chase after fleeting material things.
And you certainly can't maintain humility, tawadu, without the patience to accept criticism or correction.
That's the synthesis. Patience acts as the operational stability for the entire moral ecosystem. It's the foundational strength that allows the sincere will to remain strong, koya, and sincere sadika through all the inevitable tests of life.
This leads us to our final conclusion then. The ultimate reward, gaining heaven and fulfilling your desires through this verse, it is not a matter of simply speaking words. It's about moral transformation.
The recitation is the spiritual action.
But the character traits, with patience at the center, are the internal condition that makes the action meaningful.
The source reveals this complex interdependence.
The ritual ensures memory and consistency. The will that love plus request provides the purpose. But the character, the patience and humility, ensures authenticity.
Without genuine good character, the spiritual mechanism doesn't truly engage.
It's an entirely integrated system. The reward for discipline is peace here and certainty hereafter.
And it's that profound internal realignment that secures both the ultimate, more expensive paradise and the immediate, cheaper tranquility and success in this world.
Provided that commitment to good character is maintained in all 3 dimensions, with yourself, with your Lord, and with other people.
This has been a tremendously insightful journey. We've moved from, high-level theological claims to a very practical philosophical guide for life.
We started by confirming the unprecedented status of Ayat al-Kursi, the greatest verse in the Quran.
We then explored those fascinating dual paths to reward that the sources outlined. The guaranteed path of consistent daily ritual,
where perseverance literally makes death the only barrier to eternal paradise.
and the instantaneous path, unlocked by a single act of supreme certainty of yaqeen.
We then define that supreme will, not as just passive wishing, but as that active, potent combination of love and request, al-hub ma al-talab.
Which necessitates a deep, reverential relationship with the source of the granting.
And finally, we establish the absolute non-negotiable requirement for this entire system to even function: the cultivation of good character, husn al-khuluq.
Across all three dimensions of life, highlighting the supreme importance of patience, the one virtue that acts as the universal gateway promised all good.
So what does this highly structured knowledge mean for you, the listener, navigating the information overload of the modern world?
We've seen that the ultimate fulfillment of desire, whether it's spiritual or temporal, depends less on the volume of activity and far more on the quality of your sincerity and your moral state.
Which invites a final, I think, provocative thought. If the sources assert that the spiritual success of the most powerful verse is utterly conditional on character development, on achieving Saib, Rita, and Tawadu, then is the ritual itself less about securing an external reward?
And more about enforcing the internal transformation necessary to be worthy of that reward.
It suggests that the success of the spiritual practice is entirely conditional on the success of your character development.
The real struggle isn't reciting the verse 5 times a day. It's achieving the internal consistency, the patience, the contentment that allows that recitation to become a sincere act of will.
The question then becomes this: are you viewing the daily trials in your life? The traffic jams, the stress at work, difficult relationships. Are you seeing them as just annoyances?
Or are they actually essential daily training exercises in patience and contentment, which the sources claim are the ultimate prerequisites for both worldly and eternal success?